Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. All right, else time is valuable. I don't want to waste it. So, my name is Richard Beserra, and I am going to be starting our presentation today talking about data governance in Purview, handling the structured data, the databases, the stuff that often gets missed in data security conversations. So, we've all been following headlines all year long, all since last year. We seem to be seeing leaks happen every week, right? Different agencies, private companies, data hoarders, data brokers. It's like every week there's a leak of billions of documents, billions of dollars. It's almost a fact of life at this point. And a big part of why is a lack of visibility. That's what's enabling a huge percentage of these leaks to take place. You have data stewards and data curators that just don't know. They don't have a way to get that visibility. What's out there? How is it protected? Is it encrypted? Is there stale access from somebody who's no longer employed here? Or is it in a OneDrive that is shared with the public that somebody else could make a lateral leap to? All of these different things, these different possibilities, and it's really hard to get visibility into. Missing those blind spots, that's what's making it possible for these billions of documents to get out the door. So Purview aims to give you a way to look at that from a centralized location. Now, if you've ever attended anything with Microsoft regarding Purview before, you've probably seen our discussions about the data security section and data compliance, and that's the easy stuff. This section in the middle here, this is what often gets missed, and it's a section, a part of the data security that people don't always think about, partly because it's complicated and partly because it's also just kind of mysterious. Not a lot of people understand how structured data works or how it's supposed to be protected. So the conversations don't happen very often. We're going to change that. When you're talking about structured data, you're talking about different personas and different roles. So you're not necessarily dealing with consumers anymore, and you're not dealing with people just creating it on a daily basis. Word documents and email would fall into that categorization. That's what we call unstructured data. Now you're dealing with things like voter registration information. You're dealing with telemetry from infrastructure, so water consumption on a monthly basis, or electricity consumption for a certain grid in a city somewhere. The data that you want to manage, but that's going to be kept in a different repository and going to be examined completely differently. And you're going to have everything from your centralized location here, where it's all going to have to flow through at some point, to the data stewards. These are the guys that are going to be looking over all of this complicated telemetry, and they're going to make sure that it's accurate, it's consistent, it's not stale or corrupt. And then after that, you're going to have people who are actually responsible for the assets, and they're going to apply certain controls to it. So if your data stewards are taking a high level view of things, your data owners are the guys that are actually going to be stamping classifications on it when they're actually using it. And then finally, you're going to have the consumers who are going to use everything these other three roles are doing in advance. So you need to find out how much water was consumed by a certain zip code in the last 6 months for your city. That's a data consumer. They need to get that information, but it's got to get done in a secure way. The data's got to be accurate. It's got to be easy to cross-reference if they need to. And you need to make sure they can't accidentally give it to somebody else or intentionally. So the new Purview Data Governance Portal, and this is coming to government customers in a couple of days, actually. We're going to begin rolling it out to GCC customers in September. This is going to be a marked difference from what some of you may know as Azure Purview. This represents the general layout, the way Purview Data Governance envisions data, and it's the way I've seen a lot of customers in government and private organizations manage their structured data as well. We start with a business domain, and you can have up to 5 technical domains like this in a Purview account. And so this is just basically, here's how we're going to start grouping our data together. We're going to take just kind of our assets, our critical data elements, all of our important things, the OKRs, everything, and we're going to put it into this one domain. And then we're going to start organizing it down from there, down to the data products that people like your data consumers are going to be able to search through. Down here under the data map, this is where you're going to start getting information about metadata, where it's at, the domains that it belongs to, what logical collections it's been added to. And this is something that you're going to enable your data stewards to control. So let's look at this kind of from a business domain scenario, because this is how I've seen, as I mentioned, commercial organizations and government organizations, both of them kind of approach it. It starts with just kind of the most obvious thing you would think of, a single domain. You're just going to set up a logical container and start lumping all of your assets into there. All of your databases, your SQL columns, anything you're pulling in from Cosmos, SAP HANA, Azure Blob Storage, it all goes into one place. That gets out of control really quickly. You can't really manage it. You have to dig through it pretty comprehensively to find what you're looking for, and you can't tell easily if something's wrong. So the next step up from that is doing something like a line of business domain. So a line of business domain is, we have marketing. Okay, they get their little domain. And then we're going to have sellers, or we're going to have infrastructure. That's going to have its domain for all of its data. You can put all that together and good. Now you can control everything, but you're also beginning to silo out your data. And that's what you can actually see it referenced to right here, which means you don't have a centralized location anymore to govern everything from. So for example, if you are working in a state IT agency, and that IT agency handles the support for multiple agencies throughout the state. So you've got legal information, you've got infrastructure support, you've got waste disposal, maybe you've got other city services. It all goes through them. Line of business would say all those guys get their own domains, but a full functional line of business would say you don't have that top IT agency that can have that 360-degree view of everything. So the best approach is to have a mix of these two. You want the flexibility, but you also want the governance. And Purview gives you the ability to do that. So I want to go over what some of these look like in a little more detail, because we're just talking abstract right now. So central business domain, what you would start with, the first thing you would think of if most people asked you, hey, design a container for my assets. Your data catalog, which could be just all of the assets, the blobs, the databases that you own, okay? And your business domain. And now your business domain is just the container for everything you've got. Great, but again, it doesn't scale very well. You can do this for a couple of hundred employees, maybe even a couple thousand if you have very low activity. But before long, not only are you going to run into governance issues, there's going to be throughput issues. So let's plan for the future here. Let's change our layout a little. Departments, okay, you got your HR, operations, sales, good. Okay, great. But again, you start running into the siloing issue now. You need a way to get top-down visibility into all of this all at once. And if you let them all have too much independence over that data, you start building out those blind spots again, which starts allowing pokes holes for that data to get out. All right, so line of business. This is where we were saying this is kind of the next step up. Now, instead of departments, you're going to say, here's a region, or here's the business that these employees belong to. As staff comes and goes, cool, you can flexibly update who gets to look at what and what data is in there. But you still start running into the siloing problem. Purview gives you the ability to mix and match these so that you can have the best of both worlds. You can silo your data out to whatever degree you want to, but you can still keep them all in the same catalog. You can maintain your line of business. You can maintain your frontline data products so that everybody can access it and manage it on their own. Corporate's data stewards can handle corporate data, and they don't have to worry about dealing with regulatory or, Asia Pacific. But you,
You like the sandwich?
as a top-down data owner, you can still see all this stuff. All right, so I want to go into a little more detail about these individual tools, what they each do. The data product and data product search, these are things that we're going to be introducing with the new portal that you're all going to be getting here in September. We're going to begin rolling it out. This is where your consumers can go through here, and they can actually look for the data that they want. They can make requests to get it. You can link to a custom glossary of terms. So if you have your own terms, if you have a pre-built glossary similar to what you might see for a keyword list in a sensitive information type, you can use those here, except you're not going to use them to match sensitive information. Instead, you're going to use them to match critical data elements, CDEs, and OKRs, or objectives and key results. Those information types can all come up when somebody is searching, so they can quickly get grouped and related assets all at once. So you have your city water employee, they submit a request for information about water consumption. They can get back what your data steward approves for them to get back, and they can get the related information that they may need as well. So suggested assets based on the metadata of that information. So they said, oh, well, here's the consumption for your zip code, but here's the related consumption and the pricing for the zip codes that are within 5 miles of you. And here's something that's happening on an apartment block, for example, nearby, that represents excess water usage relative to your other areas here. And that could be something important, because if they're using a lot of water compared to everybody else, that might indicate either criminal activity. There are some things that use water like that, or it could just mean there's some kind of leak going on there that nobody has reported yet, something that you may want to know about, and you can get all of that information at the same time. That same person, if they're a data owner, they can then update that info and send it back. The glossary terms themselves can be a custom terminology list that you use. So as with most organizations, you have your own internal terminology. You may even have your own vernacular that you want to bring in and that everybody already knows, everybody's already familiar with. You don't have to retrain people to learn the proper terms. You can use what they already know and bring it in. And it's not just terminology. You can add your own metadata. You can put in shorthand acronyms, or you can put in official acronyms and definitions next to them. If you hear me talking on any of my presentations, I will usually explain an acronym when I say it, because I just don't assume everybody knows what OKR and CDE stands for. You can give that same explanation to your employees all at the same time when they're doing their search. So even if you're using internal acronyms and they may not know it, they don't have to go ask somebody. You can give them all that related info right there. Now you're getting into CDEs. Okay, so this is where you're going to start managing the fidelity of your data. This is where the quality roles, the people who are going to be controlling it, this is your data stewards, they're going to be able to come in and say, these are the important elements in the metadata that we need to update, or these are the concepts that we need to string together. They don't have to go through your databases anymore and pull that out. They can monitor the quality of that data as it slips. If it's being used and it's starting to get stale, if it's not keeping up with relative changes in your containers that you run from Purview scans, this is something that your stewards can be informed of, as well as your consumers, through the data products. And then OKRs are actually specific things that you can link to your data products. So if you're not just looking for information to do your job, but if you're actually embarking on some kind of project, that's fine. You can use that data and you can put that information together with it. And you can see, hey, what is the last step somebody was on? What progress are they making? digging a new ditch or laying out a new road for infrastructure? What progress are we making meeting certain compliance requirements, such as if someone says, hey, you need to meet CGIS requirements. It's a long, dense document that just got updated and is about to be enforced. You can use these OKRs with your data products to meet those CGIS requirements for things like encryption and retention in your structured data assets. And you can start tracking the progress for it here. This can also be combined with compliance templates that are in Defender for Cloud that meet those specific regulations. So now you have a project plan that's a template that we already give you, and you can start managing the progress on it. And you can allow your consumers, your stewards, and your owners to update their progress, to share the responsibility, and you can monitor where they're at. And that can tell you, do they need staffing help? Do they need money that they've been requesting for months and now there's a roadblock? You don't have to go questioning people and sifting through emails to get this information. It can all be aggregated centrally. And then as you start getting into things like the searching, this is where you can see the different domains that have some data. This is where your consumers can say, hey, I need access to this. You can start auto-populating keywords and tags to associate different assets with your searches. And you can see that just right here as a little drop-down menu when they run a search. You can go through and start putting through a multi-stage request, actually, for getting access through the product search. So if you have databases and assets that you want to expose to people, you don't have to just give them the keys to the kingdom, but you can give them a process to say, hey, here's what I need. And the searching can be made a lot faster and a lot more relevant. And of course, we include details with it when you get it, not just, hey, here's some generic properties. It's like file type and things like that. You can see the individual assets. You can see the lineage, which is where that data came from, how it was transformed on its way there. Was it a file type before this? Did it have encryption 6 months ago when it was a Word document? What is the quality? What is the health of this data now compared to when it was first ingested? All of that information can be presented in the search so that you have details that you can use to get your visibility on this data. Is it stale? Do we need to get rid of it? Do we need to archive it? Or does it need to remain living, accessible information? Those are questions. Those are details that you get going through just the search. And then if you're not looking for an individual item, maybe you don't know exactly what you want to look for, you get a broader view of your entire data estate. And so Purview can now tell you, hey, here's your catalog. Here's all of your business domains that you've categorized, that you've built out. And we can start telling you, here's where some of your stale data is. Here's the last time a scan was run on a database here. And we can tell you, hey, the metadata in this one is stale. It hasn't been modified in 6 months or 3 months. You can start customizing rules to control the data quality and the compliance, either a compliance with a predefined standard, something like FIPS or CGIS, or you can say, hey, we have our own internal policies for compliance, and we need to control the data based on that. The rules can say this data can only be extracted in a certain file type, because that file type is what supports sensitivity labeling. You can set up custom rules to enforce that so they can't spit out a SQL database report in something like a CSV file, which will miss all the encryption. You don't have to just trust people to know how to do it. And anything that goes wrong, of course, you can always reset them. So you can be pretty reckless with these while you're exploring them, figuring out what does what, even with guidance, and know that if you get it entirely wrong, if you mess something up, you've always got the option to go back to a baseline and start over. You have the ability to say, all right, let's try this, see what it's going to do before we break anything. If it doesn't look good, it's not going to do what we need. If it's not scoped to your whole agency, reset it and start over. Or you can build your own controls. We give you the ability to do that, or we give you some defaults if you want to start with those. So it's quick and easy to kind of get started with this. And so from controls, you have actions. So here you can actually access individual destinations. If you want to change some of the actions to take on a certain item or a certain asset, you can actually sort what those recommended actions are going to be. So if it's a lot of items that say, hey, we recommend you put this into a private endpoint, or recommend that incremental scanning be set up for this rather than full scans, which are time consuming, you can automate those actions. And rather than having to go through here and just find them one by one, you can say, all right, what are the specific findings here? Why are you recommending this to me? Is it because this data contains something sensitive that it's not supposed to? Is it because this data was last touched by somebody who has an elevated risk level in Purview and they logged in because of their conditional access risk level? Those are things that you can see, and those are the kinds of details that can inform what your actions are going to be, what you want to do. And once you do that, once you know what you want to do, you can actually assign those tasks out to other owners. So you have other data owners. You don't have to freehand send them an email. You can notify them all from the same portal and tell them, hey, here are things that we need you to do. And finally, there's the all-important reporting. You have to be able to spit something out at some point to get a broad visibility. If you're that top level central domain, reports are going to be your bread and butter. So we give you out of the box ones that can tell you, here's what's being used. Here's the most common scans being run. Here are the most common requests made and who's making them for what data. And you can actually drill down even further into those details. So the same details that you would get either making a data product search request or submitting something like that, you can get them in the reports as well from a higher level. So now you're not just looking at assets, you're not looking at individual domains, you're looking at your entire catalog of registered assets. And you can run the report to say, how often are people using Power BI compared to how often are they accessing SQL? What's being ingested into SQL, or what asset is ingesting the most data? What asset is having the most glossary terms or is having the most problems with data quality and data health? Purview gives you the ability to get all of that information all in one location. And because you can export them, you can bring that information into something like Sentinel or Splunk or into even eDiscovery if you need to do something like an investigation. If you need to do some kind of forensic checking on somebody's sign-ins, you can spit that out and you have it available without having to manually, literally type it into a search somewhere. Now, Purview tends to work really well with Fabric, so I just have a couple of slides that I want to show you here. But you can use this with any of your third-party assets. So what you're looking at on screen here is the data map. We use Fabric as an example because it's very compatible with Purview, but you can register anything from Azure SQL to on-prem SQL to any number of third parties, things like Red Hat. Again, I mentioned SAP HANA earlier, Hive databases, warehouses. You can do this as well with Databricks. So if you're working with AI, and especially if you're working with data warehouses, it's common to bring in Databricks. If you're building a catalog in Lakehouse already, you don't have to rebuild it in Purview. You can import it and you can use what's already there. If you have a catalog of your own in one of these other assets, you can bring that in as well. The architecture is designed for Databricks, for Fabric, and for several other of these assets to make it easy for you to incorporate them without missing metadata, without losing your policies in your SCI, security, compliance, and identity, without losing your glossary terms, and without losing metadata in your catalog. All of that is designed to be able to be brought into Purview and to start monitoring it. And you can ingest that data, and then you can start applying MIP protections like sensitivity labeling to those assets once you do have that visibility. Now, that is just a high-level overview. Purview can go really deep in both the structured and the unstructured assets. This is something that I could spend hours talking about. I don't have hours. So I wanted to give you a description of your capabilities, more so than the technical details. The visibility and the governance you can have over your structured data can get very granular, very organized, and you can have top-down visibility alongside it. So if you have structured data, you have a lot of options. If you have unstructured data, or if you have data in third-party clouds, now you have additional tools inside of Purview and inside Microsoft Security. Those are information protection and Defender for cloud apps. So there's some use cases on when you might want one over the other. Information protection is what you can use for your unstructured data, and for your structured data, your reports that are going to spit out into something like an Office document. So if you need to deploy certain data besides scanning agents, anything that's going to need a scanner agent, okay, go ahead and use MIP. If you want to secure your data in things like 365, where it's at, your email, your cloud, OneDrive, if it's going to be on premises servers, and it's going to be on your laptops, which is what your endpoints are, information protection helps for that. But it's not always possible to bring your data in. That's something I've heard a lot from customers. So they kind of have to deal with their data where it's at. They might be in the process of migrating it, but that's something that can take time. You know, it's not really an overnight, over the weekend thing. Defender for cloud apps can actually protect that data where it's at. You can apply classifications to it where it's at. You can put labeling on it where it's at. You can set up templates for protection and for DLP in those third-party clouds. So you don't actually have to relocate it if you're not ready to. If you want your employees to keep being able to use personal OneDrive or Google Drive or Dropbox or iCloud, whatever, you can still protect your data in those locations and still let them use it. For more details, we're going to actually move into the next section of our presentation here, and I am actually going to turn this over to Ms. Kratika Mittal to handle this part of it. Kratika, are you there?
Yep, thank you so much, Richard.
Not a problem. It is your show, madam.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
Great. Thank you so much, Richard. It was a great overview of information protection and what's coming soon. And hi, everyone. I'm Kratika. I'm a compliance technical specialist at Microsoft, and I currently support California and Pacific Northwestern states and local government. Leo and Richard are on this call today. Both have been my mentors here from day one, and I've learned pretty much everything from them. So any questions that you have, please put them in the chat. Leo and Richard would be able to answer them, and you're in good hands. So with that, I'm going to start telling you about Defender for Cloud Apps and its information protection capabilities. So these are exciting times we are living in. We have AI, all this sensitive data spanning from on-prem file shares to servers, databases, Microsoft 365 environment, and across your SaaS and multi-cloud at this point. And this data, as Richard said, needs to be secured where it is natively and without having the need to install multiple agents. So this is a broad topic, which is why this is going to be a multi-series, and this is the first session of that series. So let me start with talking about what is CASB. And so as you know, as customers are moving a lot of their infrastructure and data to the cloud, they are doing this because they want to improve their productivity, availability, scalability, not only for their users, but also for their IT teams. But when they are doing this, they are also introducing security risks in the environment. And there is an inherent need for securing those applications, your data. And in order to get the most benefit out of moving to the cloud, you need to have a balance of supporting the access to the users, but also protecting your critical information and data asset. And this is how a CASB or a cloud access security broker can help, because it adds safeguards to your organization for how they are allowing users to use applications securely by enforcing and monitoring security policies. Think of your CASB as your gatekeeper, a man in the middle who is brokering access and can do this in real time. So users can access the resources they need and they're authorized to, no matter where they're located or what device they are using. So as I start from the left, from within the organization, there is going to be some unmanaged applications, aka unsanctioned applications. So first step is getting insights on where those applications are and how they are being used so that you can govern them well, see if they are meeting your compliance requirements, and you can sanction the ones that the user need to use and use CASB to monitor and protect information that's moving in and outside of that application. So you will have a certain security criteria. You can classify, label, and protect this information, and you can monitor any interaction with the information real time. Then there is also scenario where data can be leaked from these cloud applications. So your CASB can help you with these scenarios as well. You can actually create DLP policies that would alert you in case of any risky activities from the users. And you can create policies where you can prevent users from sharing any information out of those cloud applications as well. And cloud threats naturally go across sanctioned and unsanctioned applications. So CASB enable you to detect threats inside of your managed cloud apps, but also cover scenarios such as data being exfiltrated to any unsanctioned cloud apps. And no matter, like I said, no matter where the user is located, whether they are inside an office, they are at home, they are using their laptop from Starbucks, and if they are on unmanaged devices, these policies that you would apply across your data cloud, across your cloud applications. So these are the capabilities for Defender for Cloud Apps. And this is why it does more than your typical average case CASB. Starting with discovery, it allows you to have a complete picture of the applications being used in your environment and sanctioning and unsanctioning the apps as per the corporate requirements. The ones which you think aren't approved for the use should be unsanctioned. Moving to SaaS, Security Posture Management, SSPM, it surfaces the misconfiguration in the apps and provides recommendation actions for the administrators to strengthen the security postures. Then there is security for AI. Artificial intelligence is a key concern for customers. So Defender for Cloud Apps can help organizations to understand which Gen AI applications are being used in their environment and the ability to secure the use of Copilot within Microsoft 365. Then it integrates with not only first-party identity provider, Azure, but it also integrates with third-party identity providers. So it secures the access and ensures that access is only across the devices that it is supposed to be from anywhere. Then it integrates with Defender, so it utilizes your Defender's advanced hunting capabilities across applications, identities, and endpoints, and it will continuously monitor the applications, provide alerts to your administrators and the users, and allow for the investigations and remediation of the risk. Another critical aspect to protecting from application risk is to govern the behavior of applications. App governance is going to provide you with the ability to configure policies that define the acceptable application behaviors to meet security and compliance mandates. And the last portion, protect your information anywhere in the cloud. This is the behavior. This is the topic at hand today. Knowing where your data is at and being able to classify and protect it natively, whether it is in Microsoft or third-party applications and clouds. So as you see, there are more than 1,200 applications which are currently supported within Defender for Cloud Apps. So just want to talk a little bit about how it works. Defender for Cloud Apps has three main areas where it connects to other solutions to provide visibility and control over them. So log connection works from firewall or proxies or MDE clients. They provide insights into the cloud app usage. App connectors allow to see and control user activities in the supported API apps, and then conditional access control policies leverage Azure AD conditional access to provide any reverse proxy capabilities and real-time control over user access in your environment. So the connection with the apps is going to provide visibility and governance on activities and information residing in various apps. And it also supports multi-instances for organizations that have different instances available to have all in one place. So different APIs provide different capabilities. Therefore, it is important to know the limitations. So this is just a sample. We have the more information available on API activity supportability, which is across different applications available on the Microsoft documents. We can share the link with you, but this is just an insight on how the activities across the different applications, SaaS, cloud apps are supported. So you can see scanning, DLP, file governance, app permissions, revoking those app permissions, all of these capabilities are supported across different cloud applications. Now, I want to talk about why this has suddenly become important. So threat detection and response are great, but what if we can prevent the threat from even happening? So to prevent such incidents from happening, applications and security teams need to gain visibility into the type of applications which are in use in the organization. So there are currently so many Gen AI applications in the market, and these are available for free to use. We all use them. But do you know But you want to know about their security posture, especially when the users are using them within organizations and putting your sensitive data in them. So you want to know if they are ISO compliant or HIPAA compliant or whatever regulations make sense within your organization. So you want your users to not put your data in those applications if they are not secure. That's where Defender for Cloud App comes into picture. It discovers over 400 Gen AI apps, and the list of apps is updated continuously as the new ones become popular. This means that you can see all the Gen AI apps currently in use in your organization, know their security posture and what risk they might bring, and set up controls to prevent its usage or block it if you don't want your users to use it. How would you do it? I'm going to show you the demo in a minute, but I want to show you through the medium of some static screenshots. What are you going to see on your cloud discovery? Once you have uploaded your log file on your endpoint, you're going to see a screen like this in your cloud apps. It's going to show you the applications that are in use, which is this discovered apps. So this is Shadow IT. You can also see the devices which are basically using those applications, and these are the discovered apps. So you see these red buttons in the very right corners. That's how you sanction and unsanction an app. This is your cloud app catalog, and right now, as you see, there are 425 generative AI applications. Like I said, this is updating continuously, but you can look at the security controls across these 425 Gen AI applications and either prevent your users from using it or make it limited to certain applications as you see fit. So for example, this is just an example, a generative AI app, Brainwork. Currently, it's showing the secure score of 3. Where does this 3 come from? The 3 comes from these different criterias, whether it has the security controls in place. For example, does it remember any password? Does it have an audit trail of the data that is being put on? Can users do certain things with it? And the compliance, ISO 27001, FINRA, HIPAA, right? So you can assess risk factors across general security, compliance, and legal. You can also customize the risk score as per your risk appetite. And if you find that I do not want my users to use it, all you have to do is by the way, you can also identify the users who are using it, but you can go and unsanction this application in your organization. So this red button is going to ensure that this application is actually blocked across your tenants' endpoints. And next time when a user tries to use this application, they're going to get this error message saying this website is blocked by your organization. So you can basically make sure that either your users are using only specific applications or they are not using certain applications. You would say that there are 400 of them. How can I go and continue to block each and every one of them, because there are new ones coming every day? Well, You can create conditional app access policies, and I will show you that on the portal. But you can create policies like, I don't want my users to use any application which has a score of less than 7, for example. So that would be like an umbrella policy, which will go across these applications, and any application which is rated less than 7, your users won't be able to use it. Okay, and you can also generate the shadow IT report for your C-level, for your executives to see at a glance on your shadow IT. Now, I want to go into the life cycle of a sensitive file, talk about how the data is being generated, if it's classified, where it's stored, what protections and DLP capabilities do they have in place. So this is a typical scenario for protective sensitive files in the cloud. Let's say a user uploaded a file that has sensitive content to a cloud application. Maybe it's a Dropbox or Google Workspace, and a classification label will be automatically applied to that file so that it's protected with the rights management. Then if the user try to share it with somebody external to Microsoft, that person can also, even if that person is external to your organization, the person is going to access that file is not going to be able to open it because it has certain protection settings on it, which means that the label protection actually travel with the label, and the user who violated the policy will get an alert from admin. So this monitoring is continuous, and Defender for Cloud Apps is going to get you the visibility, how these files are being shared, the identity of collaborators on those files. You can see what's being overshared, and then you have the capability to be able to classify and protect it. So before getting into demo, quickly want to tell you about what the policies are. Policy creation is very simple via the ready-to-use templates, or you can create your own custom policies, which can generate alerts and trigger automatic governance actions. So this can be done by Power Automate integrated flows. There are two kinds of policies we would see in the demo later. One is the file policies, which is going to govern the actions for the files. This is for the scenarios where there is a publicly shared file, or you want to see if there is a file with stale data on it, overexposed, and you want to perform automatically labeling on some of those files. Then there is conditional access policies, where you will have the session and the access policies. So for real-time monitoring, you will have control over how these applications are being accessed and where are they being accessed from. Is it an unmanaged device? Is it a specific location? So you can have those granular controls limiting or restricting the file activities. Okay, so let me first get you on the demo screen. So this is our portal for cloud apps, but let me show you how would you get to this portal. So this is your Microsoft Purview portal. This is your old portal. And when you go to more resources, you would actually go over here, Microsoft Defender portal, to come to your Cloud Apps portal. In your new portal that's upcoming, you would see the Microsoft Defender link on your first page here. And in either of those ways, when you reach over here, this is the Microsoft Defender portal. And you are looking for cloud apps. So one of the things that you have to ensure when you are actually using cloud apps is you have to first connect the apps. And then, so let me actually show you how would you connect the apps and how would you enable the information protection settings. You go to Cloud Apps here, and over here in the connected apps, you're going to use the app connectors to actually connect the apps. So you will go here. As you can see, there are multiple third-party applications. You can have more applications as well here. So there is Microsoft, but there is also multiple third-party SaaS apps. Right now, for the demo today, I have this Google GCP instance, which I'm going to show you how these policies work across. And there is also Microsoft 365. So you're going to see across OneDrive, SharePoint, Exchange, and Teams. One of the things that you need to do in order to enable those Microsoft information protection controls is you need to go over here and enable these controls, these settings. And after that, This is the cloud app catalog that you were seeing earlier for seeing and sanctioning and unsanctioning those applications. So let's jump on the files here. In this file is where you would see all the files across your third-party cloud apps which you have connected which you have connected and onboarded here. So you can have certain filters. You can see which are the files across your Google Cloud Platform, Google Workspace. You can see the files across your OneDrive business, your SharePoint. Then you can also select the users if you are looking for a specific user and see if the files are related to them. This is where you can see whether a file is publicly shared, externally shared, internal, so you can actually identify overexposure. You can see the file type. In the advanced filters, this is where you can actually go and see the last modified. And if I put the last modified for, let's say, an year back, I can actually see which are my stale files, right? Which are the files which have existed or which have not been modified for a long time. And then I can create the policies to manage those files. So as you can see over here, these are the files which have existed for a long time. There are 3 collaborators. This was modified in here. And what you can do is you can do a number of things here. You can make them private. You can remove or add a collaborator. You can also apply a sensitivity label if a file is detected. So as you can see, let me find a file here. Okay, so if I sense anything, if I see any sensitive information in this file, I can basically add a sensitivity label to that file. Now, let's have a quick look at the policies and how they work. So this is the information protection policies wherein you can create policies. So this is in this demo tenant, my colleague has created some policies that we are going to look at. So for the files, externally shared stale files, for example, you can see either you can create a template or you can create a customized policy. But over here, any file which is shared with public or external and has been modified 180 days ago. So over here, first of all, this policy will send an alert to the file owner telling them that they have stale files in their environment. If I want, I can also automatically apply a sensitivity label to those files. You can also remove a collaborator, remove a label. You can remove the public access. So you can see this is a very powerful solution and you can do a lot of things with the files. Then there is, for example, another file over here. There is another policy over here created for Google Workspace. And in this policy, if there was any file created after 2021, and if it matches any of these, which is routing number, bank account number, any of these kind of sensitive information, my policy is to unmask the last 4 characters and then notify users and apply an automatic sensitivity label to it. So this is there are numerous cases you can actually create policies for depending on your use cases for your cloud applications. Then there is conditional access policies that I have spoken about earlier. So I will be showing you the example of 2 of these. So basically, you can block the upload or copy pasting or basically disallow your users to download a file depending on whether they are accessing the files from an unmanaged devices, right? So if any of these information is actually found in the files, they are going to not be able to upload any sensitive content from an unmanaged device. And then let me now show you how this will look like from a user's endpoint perspective. So this is an example of session policy first that you just saw on the portal. There is a policy here blocking the user from downloading and printing files on the unmanaged devices. So over here, they are not going to be able to print, paste, cut, copy any items if the device is not Intune compliant, hybrid-ish, or AD joint. Basically, it's an unmanaged device. And they're going to get this block message. Let's see how this will look like from an end user perspective. This is an end user workstation. When they go on their browser and they go to portal.office.com, they're going to be notified that their Office portal access is monitored because this is an unmanaged device that they are logging in from. If they go to their OneDrive and they try to, so these are some of the files in their OneDrive, and they try to download this file, they are going to get this error message. Now you can see that this error message is actually from Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. They're going to say that you cannot download this file because this is against your organization's policy. If they try to open this file and print it, they're going to get a similar message. They would be prevented from doing so as well. Then there is another example of session policy. How can I block users from accessing certain applications when they are on unmanaged devices? So over here, this is the second policy. This is Teams. So if they try to access Microsoft Teams from an unmanaged device, they would be blocked. So you can see over here, this policy has been targeted to a specific user group, and they're going to get this custom block message. And this is the message that they are going to get when my user tries to access Microsoft Teams from their unmanaged device. Maybe they're working from home, and even if this is bookmarked to them, when they try to access this, it will be blocked. So this is pretty much it. And I want to share that the Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps and Microsoft Information Protection, they are a better together story. They are not one over the other story, because it is important, because they are able to complement the functionalities essentially, and that they can do for each other. For example, if you want to discover, classify, and protect any files in third-party applications and repositories, or if you want to block specific activities in real time on your cloud application, that is something you would be able to do from Defender for Cloud Apps. Then managing the access and session activities of your users from unmanaged device, discovering the stale files, overexposure, as well as preventing users from downloading the files locally to the machines if they are unmanaged devices. These are all the use cases. These are just a handful of them, but you want to think about them and you want to start creating those policies in your Defender. Because everything is security first, and the principle of least privilege comes into picture in Microsoft security considerations, there is role-based access control associated with the access to Defender for Cloud Apps as well. These are the roles and permissions that you need to enable to perform the specific functions, to even read the alerts, to even read the cloud catalog in your Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. And these are top 10 CASB use cases that you need to think about. We are going to share these slides with you so you have access to it and you can go through it and think about some of these. So for the next steps, you need to start uploading your log file to your network firewall and enable Defender for Endpoint to have you discover the shadow IT. You need to connect your cloud apps to the Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps to detect those suspicious user activities. And you can get started with this crawl, walk, run approach that is there with our deployment guide that we'll be sharing with you after this call. And with this, I'm going to give the presentation to Leo Ramirez, who's going to close this for us. Thank you, Leo.
Thank you so much, Kratika. Amazing presentation, Richard and Kratika, very informative. And just to mention to those that have joined today, this is going to be the first of several webinars in this series related to the Unified Purview portal and multi-cloud. We just wanted to give you an overview today, but there will be more coming, so stay tuned. Now, many customers ask, well, how do you get started? This is good information, but how do we get started when it comes to a POC, deployment, training? Well, there's several options that we're going to cover real quick. There are workshops that can be funded by a Microsoft partner, workshops that are specific to data security and data governance, all of what you've seen today. Many of you also have unified support, unified contracts. Well, there's workshops that can be delivered to your team that go over things like compliance, data security. There's a number of workshops. You need to get with your CSAM, your customer success account manager, and request any available workshops that are related to Purview. If you already have G3 and G5 or G5, well, there's fast track assistance. There's dedicated SMEs that specialize in Purview and can help you as you're adopting these services. In fact, Richard came from Fast Track, and now he's with state and local government as a compliance SME. So you have any questions, please reach out to this email address, this alias. It's going to go to a number of our specialists. We'll contact you and follow up. Also, obviously, you've already joined the community because you're on this call today, but feel free to invite your colleagues that may have interest or have responsibilities that are related to data security, risk, compliance, legal, cybersecurity. Again, we do these calls to give back to the community what other customers have asked us about. So this information is for all of you, and we hope you've enjoyed today. Looks like we're over, but we appreciate the questions that we did get in the chat, and we're looking forward to another call with you soon within the next month. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.